What was the last straw? What was the last straw for me? What was the last straw for you? For me, it was the fake 9/11. Finding out, having it proven it was an inside job. Skull and Bones, way up there. Comet Pizza, the Epstein thing. I was not ready for that. Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Please don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Let's see what the Lord has in store for us today. I'm going to go right to some of the pictures that I saved with the screenshots. This would be the last screenshot I saved. Make sure. Look at that. They're doing a fire hose, trying to preserve some of the mud. This is Seattle. I was explaining. Took 40 years to do the Denny regrade, one of the mini grades that had to be redone after Armageddon. I was showing a friend last night how they hollowed out all the mountains, and probably all the mountains in Colorado, the Alps, the Caucasus, wherever you're going to find a mountain, even if it's in Kilimanjaro. Who you want to Kilimanjaro? The geoengineering method known as ocean alkalinity enhancement aims to speed up a natural process. They're going to reset the ocean's pH thing. That's what is that guy? Roman Balmakov. What is he famous on the TV? He's one of those guys got TV and YouTube. They're chemical engineering in the ocean. It was in the Gulf of Maine. It was the first open water ocean alkalinity. Just working on it recently here. What's your favorite rectangle? Really? Fibonacci slop is out of control. I passed on the chance to use that thumbnail. Just a straight up brick wall in the middle of nowhere. This girl's going like, it's not perfect. Just because it's cool doesn't mean it's a natural order. She looked like a robot in a way, a kind of like mommy friendly robot. I took this screenshot here. You got to look close, but look at that. What is it in Espanol? Onana is pineapple. Many parts of the rabbit. So the Fibonacci sequence is like in music, tying it all together. I'm still looking for help on that. How many pairs of rabbits? This is supposedly where they developed and they gave the credit to, I don't know, the Leonardo da Vinci of his time, Fibonacci. He explained it. This is a translation of how many rabbits in a perfect world where nobody died and no bears ate the other ones. You ended up with the Fibonacci secret, 233 pairs in a month, 89 pairs born in the 11th month at the end of the year, 233. That's 322 backwards. I was going to get into the Fibonacci slop, but I didn't. I kind of let it go and moved into the what's your last straw? The Zorro Ranch, But those people had to be pretty smart to work out all those prices for different. They had different currencies, different weights, different things for gold. These hand signals, they just jumped out at me because they look like what you're seeing in the pictures when they're doing hand motions. The P jumped out at me here. It's like I'm going to look up the you know, like I said, I let it go a lot of it. I'm going to get into the whatever else I got pulled up here. I was watching the thing and I made some comments on the Kim Iverson show. Let me see if I can find them. Oh, here's one. It looks like Draymond Rosicrucian because they said something crazy. Look at White Heart Red Rose at Torah Covenant is a seed of DNA. Just keeping their nonsense going. Earlier, I had commented in the comments, felt led. Oh, here's, I think I just, you wanted and got Barabbas. These are some of the people going like, why is Kim Iverson not bashing Christians like she normally does, This whole thing about the war. What else was my other comment? You got another comment here? I don't see it. I'll probably just, you can look at some of the other dumb comments people made. What's more violent? Jesus was a man, and that is a deal breaker for the ISIS programmed world. Yeah, they're just talking about how come they're waiting on another Jesus, this and that. Why didn't they like Jesus? Christ spoke against the Talmud and Baal worship being Kabbalist. That would seem, that's probably good. That's correct, I think. Rome Jesuits want to merge Christianity into Noahide law. That was a good comment. This guy needs to learn short season theology. I guess I was into it. I was watching it and curious. Jesus is for sure the creator God that is manifestation of the one spirit God. That's what I was trying to do, witness.
We already talked about it, so I know you didn't know, but water is their currency, their wealth. They are.
RJ, I was explaining to him about the book of Dune.
Generations all succeed in the same 10-month window. And what did the Americans who lived through it actually remember about how...
I started it a little too late. You're supposed to hear that 3 of the amendments to the United States Constitution happened in 3 months so as to prop up that 1913 creature from Jekyll Island thing, that one thing that RJ is like always on about, like, that's bad. And it obviously is bad.
Timing raises a question the WPA interviews preserve but don't answer. Why did 3 structural changes to American governance, each resisted for generations, all succeed in the same 10-month window? And what did
I think that's a rhetorical question, like this one. Why is this like George Washington acting like a god everywhere? Look at these people acting like, look what we found. I'd be one of those guys. If they're wearing a hat, I'd probably be wearing a hat. That's kind of a late addition. The 1913 Reset America. These computer things drive me nuts.
Elements for public buildings. He said the work disappeared after the First World War, not because skills were lost, because
the people were dead. They were all killed in the war, being fed to the machine gun fire, artillery fire, charge. Your mommies might lose her comfortable way of life back in America if you don't die for America, apple pie, and mommy.
Education board funded by Rockefeller
There you go. Those guys, huh? Doggone with my algorithm. I wonder if there's any live news. Nope. There's this. Thanks, Zach. I appreciate this.
Has dominated American society. Well, their objective is to try to bring about a gradual transition in our society, a dissolving of sovereignty, and a moving steadily to the left on the political spectrum.
Well, who are they?
the elitist groups that I mentioned, particularly key individuals and policymakers in the Council
Is the
on Foreign
International
Relations.
Monetary Fund part of it?
The interview you're about to watch is a perfect example of what happens when a politician steps out of line. Larry McDonald was a U.S. politician who served as a Democratic member of the U.S. House of Representatives from 1975 to 1983. He represented Georgia's 7th Congressional District. Despite being a Democrat, McDonald was a conservative and a staunch opponent of communism. On September 1st, 1983, Larry McDonald was aboard Korean Airlines Flight 007. The plane, a civilian Boeing 747, was en route from New York City to Seoul, South Korea, with 269 passengers and crew on board. All passengers and crew, including Larry McDonald himself, perished in the crash. The circumstances surrounding the downing of Korean Airlines Flight
Very suspicious and lied about to this day. I think I know people who knew that guy. They were in the John Birch Society at that time. And honestly, that's the conspiracy. That's the setup. John Birch worked with the Rosicrucian Society, the Jesuits, to whatever this right-wing Noahide law they're going to replace Christianity with in the upcoming whatever. Here you go. A little bit more. We're going to, stick with me. Stick with me, please.
007 are controversial at best. Others call it a false flag attack. But one thing's for sure. This was the last interview he ever gave.
Mr. McDonald, I'm not a conspirator. I think even Buchanan would vouch for that.
Well, you are a member of the
Robert
Council on
Welch.
Foreign Relations.
Robert Welch. No, I don't think so. Yeah, I'm a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Is that a conspiracy?
Well, you've certainly. Well,
Let me just tell you what Newsweek says this. The John Birch Society considers communism only one arm of a master conspiracy in which socialist American insiders are plotting to establish world government. Now, it also says, and here's Director John McManus, that's your public relations director, saying that former Secretary of State Alexander Haig and CIA Director William Casey are two of these master conspirators who are plotting to establish world government. Now, what do you say? That kind of silly, asinine statement is what makes people laugh at the John Birch Society.
well, Tom, I'm sure being a longstanding.
Well, they're not laughing anymore after they helped Trump win 2 elections, form the funding for the MAGA, and it's the Koch brothers. It's the JFK assassination. It's the homeschool movement. I've been ass deep in it due to the Lord's intervention. And this is why they want to, they're back in power. They get another chance. The great big I told you so. And not tying it into the Lord Jesus Christ in a non-Roman Catholic way, a non-ecumenical way, a way that Jesus is the only way. Some more.
A member of the Rockefeller apparatus, and as a member of the Council on Foreign Relations of longstanding, you're fully aware that there is an elitist core in this country that has seen value in subsidizing communism, of protecting communism.
It has?
Sure.
You're accusing me of subsidizing communism?
No, I'm saying
Because
that
I happen to belong to a
there is an elite
policy
core.
study group?
Wait a minute. There
A
is
study group.
an elite core in this country that has dominated American society.
Well, I'm not one of
So,
them.
I mean,
Trilateral Commission.
the Trilateral
Council on
Commission,
Foreign-
Council on Foreign Relations.
Look, they could be talking about Skull and Bones. Those people, the Bullingers in England that have the same Skull and Bones type situation. He was killed because they need martyrs. They're going to bring it back up. And so I guess this whole thing was the...
So what do you think about this? Do you think it's just a coincidence that he was killed when his plane was exploded by a missile attack shortly after this interview? Or is it something else? I want to know what your opinions are. What happened to him? Put it
He
in
was shot down, man. They shot a missile at him and said that flight veered into Soviet. Did I have this set up for a reason here? I am not going to mess with it. I'm going to just move on here. I wanted to look up the Maginot Line, coastal defenses. No, that's not the Maginot Line. There's your thumbnail. I've used that before. The mountains are hollowed out. I wonder why they show such a small pictures of it. But they got hospitals underneath them. I think all the coastal defenses, after Armageddon, they found it. The Maginot Line, they'll show you the little bumps on the top of the hill and go, look at what they did. Of course, the Nazis went around it, but they have to have an excuse for why it's there. Wherever it's a red dot, follow the outline of the mountains. The mountains are hollowed out, and they give credit to France for saying, oh, we're going to build it and let the Nazis run around it and be surprised and hope people forget that half of France rushed into the arms of Germany saying, we're purely white, we're purely white. We want to be on your team. And I think they were called the Vichys. These things are real. They're all hollowed out mountain people in their hospitals, taking their food, complex augers, counterweights to lift the gun up, shoot, and then close it, drop the shell down. They'll recycle it later. But the tourists get to see this and say, isn't that crazy? It's like when they stormed the beach at Normandy. It's just something poking out of the hill. You keep farming, doing your dairy work. Look at that. That's some pretty strong things. Those bullets will blow up a ship, and that's pretty accurate if you ask me. You shoot one, you shoot the other and say, okay, it's not going to work unless I guess you get it right into the thing, the portal. That's pretty well sealed off, but you can get down into the mountain from there. Wow, look at that, the Maginot Line. And this is only one of 120 underground mountains. And I think they're in the United States. I think that's where the camp of the saints is. It's certainly not at the North Pole. They're going to be wherever 2 or 3 saints are gathered and hide far from the maddening crowds while the world is burning again. There's not only the Maginot Line, there's the Siegfried Line. And guess what? Guess what? It goes underground. Starfort City's underground. That's not the Maginot Line. The Maginot Line is under the mountain, underneath the bunkers. Roman concrete. They had to have an excuse for this. They had to have an excuse for their DEI, the abortion, the arguing over, well, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, but I'm going to vote Democrat even though I'm pro-life because of it's the economy, stupid. The Siegfried Line. How many times do I have to show the Siegfried Line? Look at all of these. Seacoast defenses in the United States. Probably, it's a hollowed out star fort. And there's star forts. We were all amazed 10 years ago. What? The Statue of Liberty is on a star fort? What if it's been there for longer than they say? That's a big cannon for the middle of nowhere, right? Big mortars. A lot of metal involved. Yep, underneath the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, when it opened its arms, there was a star fort peeking out. Gonna fly now. Yeah. Flying high now. That's enough of that. Let's look at one particular one, the one that started the Civil War. They got it rebuilt in a pale imitation of its former self, wouldn't you say? What they're showing now is a pale imitation of their former Star Fort glory. Let's start the war there. Let's end the war there. Let's get some guy that's been pro-slavery and Freemason to fire the first shot honorarily to start the war. He did it. Ed, the ruffian. Look at Fort Sumter. And that was one of the many, many, many forts they said they built in a hurry because, man, the English is going to attack us like in 1812 when they conquered us and burnt our libraries. This is one of the coastal defenses of the United States. It's a star fort, baby. I got a category of coastal defenses in the United States. List of coastal defenses, sea coast. I wonder which one I chose. Oh, just straight up Palmerston Fort with all those other things. All I looked at was the Palmerston. Oh, there's a bunch of them. But they're from England. And they're all super weird star fort. These are all super star forts with coastal defenses built. Wow, there's a lot of them. Now, the Palmerston forts were built during the Victorian period. Okay, what is that? 1800s? Yeah, she built them from 1837 to 1901. Sure, she did. Queen Victoria did. She built all the Palmerston forts. I think I showed you. There's a lot. There's a freaking lot. And a lot of them are in the middle of the ocean, too, you know. Can I find one in the middle of the ocean, please? There was a lot in the middle of the ocean when I looked earlier. Not only by the ocean, I mean in the frickin' middle of the ocean. How about you, Darnell? That's still got an island around it. Spitbank? There you go. That's what I'm saying. A lot of the Palmersons are like Spitbank. Aren't there a lot of them? Way to go. Queen Victoria. Although they're just a big folly. You know, people will admit now they just spent too much money. But they had tons of money because they were selling heroin, leftover, remnants of the takeover of China. So all of these things, that's a very mysterious Isle of Wight, Portland, Plymouth Rock, that's the Plymouth Foundation. Nobody was ever like stupid near cavemen. All right, Palmerston Forts. I looked up another one. I didn't want to go. There were just too many. So I looked up the Martello's Tower. I thought it was one tower. Turns out that is more like a Palmerston Fort. They're the Martello Towers that were built in the 1700s. A lot of them are gone now, but they still know they were round and pretty well built. Here they're tearing it down, going like, we don't need it anymore. It was a waste of money, so now we're going to waste more money because we got a pickaxe. It'll probably take a while, but the good thing Armageddon blew the top off and got us a good start, right? You don't even know what I'm talking about. So there's the Martello Towers. You probably go all underground. Like, look at me, I'm underground. So here's how many. Not as many as the other forts, but a lot. And these are any of those names jumping out at you? Here's one named after Victoria Tower. See, it's got a little divot.
1966, a year before Albert Broccoli gave the green light to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, he was working on the next James Bond film, You Only Live Twice. Broccoli was location scouting in Japan with 4 other members of the production team. The group was scheduled to fly home on March 5th, 1966, but instead canceled their tickets at the last minute in order to watch a ninja demonstration. The plane they were scheduled to board, BOAC Flight 911, crashed.
Wait, that was BOC Flight 911.
Near Mount Fuji, killing all 113 passengers and 11 crew members. We should all be thankful for that fortuitous ninja demonstration in Tokyo. Otherwise, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang may have never come into horrible character. The Child Catcher.
Children here somewhere. I can smell them.
Executing a vicious government policy with extreme gusto, the Child Catcher has terrified generations of children that thought they were watching a children's movie. Brilliantly played by actor and dancer Robert Helpman with snaky grace, the Child Catcher is creepy on the most visceral fundamental level, and he's become all the more disturbing today, given what we now know.
Have you come to help us?
And although Caractacus's first order of business is to rescue Grandpa and the kids, he now resolves to help facilitate a full-blown regime change war in the land of Bulgaria.
You want to get out of here, don't you? Yes, come in closer.
The attack on the Baron's castle begins with a classic Trojan horse deception, courtesy of Benny Hill, who
Yeah. Hey, the raising of Seattle came up when I was witnessing yesterday, so I thought I would show you some of the pictures that interested, Seattle and their underground and the raising of the cities, and that we all found it. Obviously, if people's eyes have been opened by the Lord, they're going to jump on this and go like, that don't make no sense. What do they think? I'm stupid? Well, yeah. Well, because we are been dumbified or whatever it is, I mean, we're in the process of snapping out of it. I wouldn't say we snapped out of it, but when you do show people that have open eyes that, this is what's underground and it's better than what we do today, it, like I said, depending on their level of understanding and abilities, they're going to work it out. Now, what's with this? Liber Apci, posthumously. So, Fibonacci, the book of calculation. Somebody must have brought it with them into the mountains when, Micah chapter 1, verse 4, the mountains melted like wax. And this was protected because somebody took it with them. Later, they got the Fibonacci, the modern Arabic numbers, that it led to the abacus. Without somebody bringing that into the mud flood so that they'd be saved when the mountains melted like wax, and they were going like, save us from the wrath to come. And I'm not sure why they keep calling it irrational. I don't get that. Jonah chapter 1, verse 9. And he said to them, I am a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. Then the men were exceedingly afraid. There's only really one explanation. Why would they be afraid? It was the time of the Gentiles. Remember how long Jonah was after all of this, and they had prophesied there will be a time of the Gentiles. The Persians, the Babylonians were going to Jesus, and Jonah was warned, you have to go to Nineveh and warn them that I'm mad, they're not doing it right. Why would Nineveh care if it wasn't that time where the laws of the Medes and the and the Babylonians must all agree? And the prophecy is, like the short season says, there'll come that time, the time of the Gentiles. We have the New Testament. What was that? Arguments about, well, okay, obviously the same prophets and apostles of Peter and all those guys are saying Gentiles are saved, but how saved? That's the whole argument of the New Testament. That's where we're at today. That what led us to what I previously showed about the well, you remember where we're at today. These guys predicted it. I said I didn't want to show my algorithm, but sometimes I do, just to show you. It's always going to be about Epstein, the selfigio. How in the world? How come you know doe, a deer, a female deer, ray, a drop of golden sun? It's the solfegio. Do, re, fi, ma, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, a deer. Come on, man. It's Epstein, and they're raping and killing children. They're bombing the places with rain. They're trying to get it all to go back underground. And here I am where, my history shows, let's expose the massive structures underground. But then again, when I have to, realize this is my history, it's always going to be,
we put them on, end quote. She refused, only to feel shunned for declining to play along with the sick party trick.
Where do I live? On the border of southern Colorado and New Mexico. What did I come here for? Well, because God told me to get back to the mountains, and that this was the place that I'm going to set up my camp for the end times, because I'm going to find places to live in the mountains, and we'll live while their cities are burning and they're going underground. And while I'm here, why don't I look into what this Epstein thing is and the connection to Alamosa, Colorado, and Bill Richardson's and governors of New Mexico helping Jeffrey Epstein.
Clients' dark desires. What truth, if any, is there to these claims? What facts are buried beneath the dust?
What claims? I got to start over again.
Obstruction and other grounds. The interior read quieter than the map, a compound set against mesas and open range. Zorro Ranch was a place built for privacy, with its massive land and spread out buildings, and its private airstrip, which would allow visitors to come and go without having to use the surrounding highways. Despite sitting out on the open, sun-baked desert of New Mexico, this place, called Zorro Ranch, was a fortress. Land agreements allowed the inner portions of the complex to become hermitages, and the fences and gates ensured that no interested onlookers could get too close. It was 2019 when Commissioner Richard announced the grazing lease cancellations, the same year that Zorro Ranch's owner was thrust into the final limelight of his life. Disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein had called this mysterious range part-time home for years, taking advantage of state grazing leases to keep a wide berth between him and all those who might try to look in on his activities. Many people have a love for privacy, but most simply build a fence or plant trees. Epstein seemed to take his need for privacy to a whole new level.
Because they're cooking and eating children.
Under the painter Eric Fish, attend the debut of the Site Santa Fe Biennial and meet a wealthy benefactor.
I wanted to get to who did he buy it from? Who is he friends with?
Girls were by the rich and powerful, commanded to do anything that Epstein ordered them to do. They would be flown to the ranch, isolated from the rest of the world, and lured in with
way before the Epstein Island,
notoriety, or fame. The environment and the behavior of Epstein and Maxwell was specifically designed to make the victims feel small, powerless, and to put them off their feet.
Look at that expensive globe. Zorro Ranch, everybody.
He hoped to seed the human race with his DNA by impregnating women at his vast New Mexico ranch. End quote. Virginia Giuffre attested to that fact before her death. She stated that, while a victim of Epstein, he offered, quote, a mansion and money every month, a monthly allowance to bear one of his children. The proposition was that if anything ever happened between Jeff...
How weird is that? But it seems like this guy and others, and I believe it.
These leases were allowed to be held until finally Commissioner Garcia Richard canceled them. New Mexico was under massive scrutiny for its role in the Epstein debacle. Had they treated Epstein with justice, the land would have been revoked long ago, and perhaps something would have been discovered about the ranch's dark secrets. Garcia called the land leases sweetheart deals, to which Epstein obviously was no stranger. He was used to the government giving him sweetheart deals. I mean, this is the exact terminology they used to describe what happened to Epstein in his original Florida case. But this was not the only way New Mexico failed in its duties. Epstein, after being convicted in 2008 of solicitation of under the age of, was not forced to register as a... They put him on the registry for only 2 days before mysteriously and suddenly removing his name again. Why?
Because they're setting you up. Because it's come to a point where I started this show asking you, what was the last straw? What was the last straw for me? What was the last straw for you? I'm hoping there was a last straw, and it involves the Lord Jesus Christ changing your heart and you realizing it, and that you don't think there's something to Jesus Christ and that he rose from the dead, but you actually have been given faith to believe it. You've been maybe symbolically, maybe literally on your knees, confessing to yourself that you believe he rose from the dead. By his stripes, you're healed. You've been saved. You trust the Bible that some are going to make it. And how do you know if you're one of them? You die in faith in spite of your orphan-trained brain, realizing that your parents, grandparents were unwillingly complicit in sitting you in front of a desk with a globe on it. No, this is a flat earth nation. The golden age has passed because the mud flood was Armageddon. God's friends will never tell you anything else. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sana. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakamain. From the border of southern Colorado and New Mexico. Salt Paco saying adios, amigo.